Today we're going to be replacing the communication cable on your Apollo Go. The tools you'll need to complete this repair are a 3mm Allen key, a pair of flush cutters, needle nose pliers, and a zip tie. The first thing we want to do when replacing the communication cable on a Go is removing the handlebar assembly completely. Now the first thing I'm going to do that is disconnect the brake line. So we're going to make sure on this adjustment screw here that the slots are lined up so I can pull the brake line up, squeeze the lever, and disconnect the brake line. Next I'm going to take my 3mm Allen key and uninstall the 6 screws securing the handlebar assembly to the stem of the scooter. Okay, now that our 6 screws are removed, I'm going to go ahead, unlock. I can go ahead and pull the handlebar assembly, showing us the communication cable. I'm just going to hold the handlebar assembly, only disconnect. This is what we're changing. So I'm going to take my handlebar assembly and just set it aside. Now everything's free on the top. I'm just going to, there's 3 cables running here. One of them is the communication cable. So I'm just going to pull it at the top to make sure it's nice and tight, and then pull at the bottom to see if I can feel and verify that I am indeed pulling the correct wire. In this case I am. So now I can just simply start pulling the wire. I'm going to hold the gasket with my finger just to make sure it doesn't come completely off. And a good pull. COM cable's out. Next I'm going to just remove this spiral cable wrap. Makes things easier to work on. So now I still have my COM cable. I need to open up the inner cavity and disconnect the cable from the controller in there. So now we have flipped the scooter over to get better access to the control cavity here. I'm going to use my 3mm Allen key and just uninstall the 4 screws holding this in place. So now we can see inside. I can take our COM cable, find it inside the control cavity, follow the cable, chase it all around until it comes to this point, and remove it from the controller. Now I'm going to cut the zip tie, holding a bundle of cables together. Now that the cable's free, I'm going to push it in. I find it easier to push this connector through the gasket than the other one. So I'm just going to gently push it in, and then there we go. Completely removed the original communication cable. Now for the purpose of this video, I'm just going to reinstall the same cable. Of course, if you're replacing the cable, chances are you have a new one. So I'm going to attempt to push the cable through the gasket. A lot of times it's easier just to push the gasket out of its hole here. I'm going to feed the cable through as well. Gives you a lot more room to work with. Then pushing the gasket back into place. Making sure it's seated nicely on both the outside and on the inside. Now we can take our connector for the communication cable, plug it back in to the controller, making sure you hear it click. If you give it a gentle pull, it should stay in place. So now that the connector is plugged into the controller, I'm just going to gently slide the cable through. Going. Now I'm going to take the bundle of cables here and retie a zip tie to secure them all in place. There's no special order about this. This is just about keeping them nice and tight and making sure nothing rattles around in the scooter. Just like that. So now before I seal up this control cavity again, I'm going to plug in the COM cable to the handlebar assembly, uninstalled obviously, turn on the scooter and just make sure everything is working properly. I have the light, the stem light, everything's working as it should, so that's good. Unplug this, set the handlebars aside once more, and now I can proceed with closing the control cavity. Using my 3mm Allen key. Excellent. Now we're going to flip the scooter back over and proceed with the repair. Now we need to get this connector in through the stem, through this gasket, and up towards the handlebar assembly. This can be pretty troublesome sometimes, so a little trick I like to employ is tugging on these cables and pulling the gasket out. So now you can see the gasket is separate. Makes it a lot easier to work with. I'm going to take a pair of needle nose pliers, stick them through, and just start to open them. Once the connector is through, I can remove the pliers, pull nicely. When I'm putting this into the stem, I want to make sure it's pointing upwards, so as I push the cable, it will move towards the top of the stem and not down towards the bottom. If you do need some help with this, you can take a long tool and poke it down through here to help push it. But it's not terribly difficult to just get it pushing in the right direction. Now I'm going to reseat the gasket. Just pushing, and it's well seated on all sides. Perfect. Now we're almost done the repair. I'm going to pull from this side and push from this side to move the cable through the gasket nicely. Don't want to pull too hard and break any wires. I just want to do this until the length of the cable here is about the same as the cables already here. That's just perfect. So now I can reinstall my spiral cable wrap. This just starts at the base, and then you wrap it around these 3 cables. Perfect. And now I'm able to connect my handlebar assembly here. I'm going to take all this excess cabling and kind of fold it and push it down the stem. Having a little bit here is just fine. There we go, now the stem fits on. I'm just going to lock it in place to make it easier to install the screws. So again, with my 3mm Allen key, there we go. Now my final step would be to reinstall the brake line here. So I'm going to depress the lever, pull out this tab, slide the ball end in, make sure I have the gaps across the adjustment screw. Once you're through, adjust the space so the gap is no longer there, so the brake line can't fall out. And there we go, we've just replaced the communication cable on an Apollo Go.